Kat at Cohost for another one of our quick tips. Today I have the super wonderful Heather White. She is a early childhood educator locally here in Stanwood. She and I met, gosh, a year ago, it seems like, at a free business class at the library, which was so great. She came in, sat down next to me, we were passing notes by the end of it, and have been friends and work partners and everything since. She teaches pop-up preschool here at Cohost once a month, every first Monday, and we will get back to that hopefully in June. In the meantime, she has been doing a virtual circle time, which my kids are addicted to, Thursday and Friday mornings. She is also a TINKERGARTEN instructor, which I heard from her is going to start back up this summer, and is working towards her very own forest school, which is a sort of outdoor preschool, early childhood type thing. So busy lady. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about early childhood education and everything that it encompasses. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Kat. What a nice introduction. And thanks for doing this and putting us together so that people can still learn while they're at home. I love the other videos that you've done, and it's been so nice to get to know some of your other instructors to see what they're offering the community. I just love Cohost and you and everything that you've done for Stanwood and our town to keep all these curious people learning and coming together. It's just been wonderful. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. You are so sweet. And you brought up the first thing that I want to talk about, which is teaching at home, which is something that not all of us have very much experience with. And it can be and feel stressful, especially for younger kids who are on a little bit more of a timeline of learning to do things. So learning to read, learning their colors, learning their numbers. How stressed do I need to be about really forcing that sort of program or agenda at this point?
I think it's a really good question. And I want to give you full license right now and freedom to take the pressure off of yourself. All of us are now homeschooling, and many of us didn't ever anticipate having to be in this position. A lot of people who homeschool, it's a very intentional decision. There's a lot of research that goes into what kind of curriculum they're going to use, what their day is going to be like. And we've all just been thrown into this. And, it feels a bit haphazard, and it's really unfair. We're being asked to do the impossible, be home with our kids, many of us still working and also educating. So I can speak most to kids who are, 5 and under, 6 and under. I have a kindergartner, so this is my first foray into school. And his teacher is doing a great job of sending us things that will keep him busy and keep him learning and meeting some of those targets that he'll need to enter into first grade next year. So my first advice is work with your teacher to figure out what it is that's most essential for your child to keep learning. And I know a lot of preschoolers are getting the same support from their preschool teachers, which is really helpful. Now, having said that, it's nice to have those resources and those tools to use with kids at home, but it does add a lot to our plate. And in some cases, it's more than we can manage. And so I think one of the first things we can do is just take that pressure off and really focus on two things. These are the mantras that I keep telling myself. And it is connection is everything and learning is everywhere. And I tell myself that every morning when my plans don't go the way that they're supposed to, or when my child isn't interested in what I have on the agenda for that day for us to do together. The most important thing I can do is connect, and we'll find ways to learn together at some other point during the day, or by doing whatever it is that they want to be doing, what they're naturally interested in. And it's perfectly okay for this to be a time when everything is not okay. We are not coming out of this thinner, more productive, better home educators. We're just managing what's being thrown at us, and we're nurturing our kids, and we're doing our best. And that's all we can do. We can really rest assured that kids know how to learn best through play. And if we can trust them to do those things and trust that their instincts and their impulses to do whatever it is they like to do when they play, whether it's playing baseball or chasing each other or, making things, or like my kids, literally playing in the mud and in the sand and the water all day long, there's really important work being done there. And the sooner that we can trust that those play patterns are inherently good for them, then the easier time we have kicking back and saying, I trust this. I'm not going to stress about whether or not this is making my child kindergarten ready.
What are parents doing to teach their kids without even trying that can help reassure them that you know what? You put them in a bathtub, they are all like, they're good to go. You've already taught your lesson for the day. What are some other ones that they're doing without knowing?
It's so true, Kat, and it's such a good question. And I love that you're able to look at Oscar playing and see all of that value there.
Well,
and,
we do hours and hours and hours on end. So I have a lot of time to reflect.
there is so much going on behind the scenes. And, in a lot of ways, I know that we're, in a privileged position to be able to stay safe at home and be at home with our kids right now. But in a lot of funny ways, there can be a lot of silver lining here. This is the kind of underscheduled, play-based reality that early childhood educators have been calling for a long time. I know a lot of us feel like we're in a rat race a lot of the times with our kids, and this is really, in a lot of ways, a gift. It's a gift to be able to sit back and observe how your kids play, to be able to see all the value in really simple things that they do. When they're playing and running outside, they're using their gross motor muscles, their coordination, their proprioception, and their vestibular skills. Those are all amazing sensory skills that kids really need to activate in order to grow their brains and grow their bodies. When kids repeat simple things, they start to get better at it. And when they get better at it, they can sort of iterate and use more of their creativity and feel confident and competent in what they're doing. And that's really the place where we want to get them at, where they can start experimenting more and, start wondering about more. And that's when you can start to introduce more things to them that you might want them to learn. You can be that play partner for them and engage in some make-believe. It's one of the safest, most wonderful things you can do for a child right now, because it's how they sort out what's happening in their world, and it's how they figure out what they want to learn next.
But that brings up a good point too, that, kid stuff feels like kid stuff, but it's not anti-adult stuff, or, it's not for grown-ups. It's, I did my quick tips with my good friend Jessie, who does collage art. And if you told me, okay, set the kids up to do some collage, I'd probably just set them up to do it. But he and I were talking, and it's true, like, I can easily create collage. It can be more artistic mind than theirs is. Maybe they're ripping and I'm cutting. We did vision boards at the early part of the year, but I could do a vision board once a month. I could do a COVID vision board, frankly, for like everything that I'm hoping to, grow and, aspire to be, even if it's not a whole new person, but, just trying to be more actively involved. Also, I can set my kids up to do something and then say, I will be back in 10 minutes. And 30 seconds later, they are coming to me for something. So if I want them to spend some time doing it or learn how to do something, if I do it with them, you're so right. It lasts longer. It takes longer. I also get something out of it.
Yeah, it's so true that, you touched on something without even realizing it. And that is the importance of modeling. So, if you're actively pursuing something creative, or if you're actively spending your time doing something that you want your kids to do, what a great way to show them that this is how we spend our downtime as a family. Sometimes we'll just pick up guitars in the morning because the kids will eventually do the same thing. They have little kid versions of the same thing. My son has a little waterproof ukulele, and he loves to pick it up and play with us.
Oh my gosh.
But the same thing is true of reading. I was just listening to a podcast, Dak Shepard's podcast, and he had a parenting expert on there named Jessica Lahey, and she was saying, parents, later in the teen years want to come to her for advice. How do I get my child to get back into reading? They've dropped all their books. And her first question is, well, do you read in front of them? And I think that's such a great question. It really gets at the heart of it. Kids want to emulate everything that we do. And if we want them to engage in some independent play, if we want them to be doing, healthy things with their time, we have to show them that that's how we spend our time too, that that's how we value our time as a family. The more that you spend setting your kids up for independent playtime, the longer those stretches will get. I always like to bake with my kids, and it's hard because it's really messy, but there's so much learning that can be done in these little, seemingly unassuming tasks, like baking, like singing music, like going for a walk. There's all kinds of learning there, and I think that that's all part of your sort of your family culture and how you can influence your kids that way.
Yeah, I love that. Neil deGrasse Tyson, of all people, not of all people because he's a certified genius, but he was talking about how for young kids, the learning moments are not behind a desk, that kind of thing. But he was talking specifically about an egg and how, your kid grabs an egg and your first instinct is to be like, no, it's going to break. But that egg was maybe 50 cents and they're going to learn about pressure. They're going to learn about, how babies are made. There's just, you could one egg could be, the everything for this kid.
So much.
And just kind of figuring out, like, how do I crack it? How do I whatever? Like, you really just have to, there's going to be mess, and you could deal with a cracked egg on the counter, or you could have a kid that's, too afraid to be able to touch things or move things or do things. And
sometimes the messiest activities are the ones that buy us the most time as parents. And as long as we can sort of get more comfortable with that mess happening, knowing that, yes, it will be a little bit more work for us on the back end, but we can start to help our kids understand that, making a mess is welcome, so long as we all, help and chip in to clean it up. You're going to get a child that is getting so much more sensory input, so much more creative practice, so much more autonomy and confidence that we trust them to play with these materials. We trust them to direct their own learning and see what happens. Those are moments where we really have to walk the talk as parents, and it's not easy. But in most instances, unless you're giving them a Sharpie, which has happened in my house a handful of times, the damage is minimal and easy to clean up. This is the time to really get creative in terms of how we spend our time as a family, because you might be surprised when you get those nuggets of time. And I know it can be really hard to multitask, but having a bath time and first thing in the morning, if that's unusual and unexpected, it's more fun for the kids. They're not going to remember at the end of this, all of the worksheets that you had them do from school. They're not going to remember like the activities that you got off of Pinterest or Khan Academy, what things they did on their iPads. They're going to remember the funny, weird things that you did as a family, the days that you were all in your PJs, the days when you had a bath at 10 in the morning, the times that you all had a dance party because nobody had to go to work the next morning. There's a lot of silver linings and a lot of really joyful moments we can create if we could be mindful and remember that this is a unique time. I'm all about family traditions. They're so good for kids, so comforting and so nurturing when they know they can expect something. And then that's something that they can repeat every night, something that they know they can think about throughout the day. And, is this going to be the thing that I tell tonight during my share time? But also it's great for his brain. It's engaging his memory and making him sort of stop and reflect and think about what he did. Also, what a great practice in gratitude, which is so healthy for us to stop and appreciate what did go really well today. What was really fun? Let's do that again. I read an article recently where someone said, one of the most important things that can come out of all of this is our relationships being intact. And I think that is just so true, especially for little ones who feel it all and don't know how to articulate it all when they're frustrated and when they're stressed. And, if we can use any number of opportunities through the day to get closer to our kids and to really understand what they're going through and be honest about what we're going through, that's only going to strengthen our relationship by the end of this, not tear it down.
So I see you have a guitar behind you, and I have been to your circle times enough to know that you are quite musically gifted.
I don't know if I go that far.
I'm saying it here, and I'm not going to make you play it, but if you turn into circle time, you'll see it. But we had a conversation about songs that are not kids' songs, but that are great for kids. Because I can sing, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and all those things, but my Oscar was born on Halloween. And so when he was a teeny tiny baby and trying to remember all these kids songs and I couldn't, the nursery rhymes and stuff, thankfully it was Christmas season because I realized I know all the words to most Christmas carols. So I could, lullaby him, sleep with those. But then I quickly transitioned to, I sing Dock of the Bay all the time.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Leaving on a Jet Plane. I sing the intro to Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's fantastic.
Which is funny because there's they're fairly violent lyrics. So sometimes, I just say fill the pan instead of kill the man, but, trying to edit that one down. But do you have any tips on songs that are good for melodious tunes that aren't kid songs?
Sure. I mean, my husband and I joke that one of the best decisions in parenting that we ever made was to stop listening to kids' music when my son was a baby. And really, there is so much music out there it's great for kids and keeps your sanity intact too. So we started listening to the Beatles and Cat Stevens. There's a lot of like 60s and 70s folk music that's pleasant and actually really great for kids. It's easy to learn, simple melodies, soft, it's not too harsh. I love listening to reggae and Bob Marley with my boys. I've been singing them since they were babies, Three Little Birds, which is just kind of soothing for me and for them. I love Little Boxes by Malvina Reynolds. I think Pete Seeger may have covered it. It was on the Weeds intro.
Yeah, the Weeds intro, the second season was all different artists doing it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was great. I loved that. I missed that show. And then the other one is Townes Van Zandt sings this song called I'll Be Here in the Morning. And it's just a wonderful one to sing at night. It's very reassuring. It's the lyrics, the chorus that repeats is close your eyes, I'll be there in the morning. I think that if you can find music that you like and you can try to, edit it down, it's one of the things I take pride in with Pop-Up Preschool. I have to say is every month I curate a playlist for the kids and I try to really make it music that adults will enjoy, that, right, is clean for the kids. That's also kind of on theme and a little bit funny. So yeah, I say have fun with it.
You nailed it. No diggity for the dinosaur one was flawless. Flawless. Loved it.
Proud moment.
I think it's been really good, and I think you're right. If we can connect and see the learning, just wherever it's happening, however it's happening, to whomever it's happening, I think we can, and we'll get back to whatever it was. We'll just always be learning.
Always be learning. Why not? We're so curious. We're naturally that way.
Well, I love it, and I feel much more free. I'm just gonna let my kids learn what they learn, and thankfully they are of an age when. Not that there's not an age when the playing stops, but that this can be a good experience for them. And
absolutely, it's especially true. It's what we say regardless of school being closed for kids 5, 6, 7 and under. Yeah, play is where it's at.
Yes. Well, I'm off to go play myself, and
Great.
You are too. I can only imagine. We will see you on Thursday morning for your next virtual circle time.
That's right. It's every Thursday and Friday morning at 8:30. It's just on my personal Facebook page. Come find me, Heather White. I do about an hour of virtual circle time every Thursday and Friday, and it's always nature-based. There's some things that repeat every time, like certain familiar songs, finger plays. It has the same rhythm, but it's always new and different. And there's lots of ideas for ways you can play at home and using everyday materials. I'm really a big advocate about not buying anything during this time. We don't need anything fancy to keep our kids busy right now, especially with Earth Month. Pledge to not buy anything new, celebrating Earth Day tomorrow. So yeah, come and join me and find me on Facebook. I'm always happy to answer parenting questions or play questions. So, I'm happy for anyone who wants to reach out to me. Let's be friends. Come to Pop-Up Preschool when we come back in June. Come play with us outside at TINKERGARTEN. And I look forward to meeting you, and good luck. We're in this together. No one is doing this gracefully. Remember, tell yourself
We're
that.
all doing our best.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather, so much. We will link to everything at the end and probably in the notes or wherever. But so people know where to find you. Thank you again.
Kat. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.